The first strike. The quiet hum of everyday life on Earth was shattered in an instant. It was just another normal day. People going to work, children heading to school, and families enjoying their breakfast. Then, without warning, the sky darkened. It wasn't a storm. No, this was something far worse, something humanity could never have prepared for. Across the world, millions of eyes turned to the sky as enormous ships appeared in Earth's atmosphere. They were not the familiar aircraft from human technology. These were alien ships, massive, sleek, and shining with a cold, threatening gleam. The ships came from all directions, each one more imposing than the last. They filled the sky, casting shadows that turned daylight into eerie twilight. Panic spread like wildfire. Sirens blared across cities. People screamed in fear, unsure of what was happening. The government scrambled, trying to make sense of the situation, but no one could understand why Earth was being invaded. A voice crackled through the emergency broadcast systems worldwide, a voice so cold and distant it sent a chill down the spine of every listener. This is the Galactic Council. Earth has violated the laws of the galaxy. Your planet's fate is sealed. Prepare for the consequences. The world froze. It was impossible to comprehend. The Galactic Council. The name itself was something only heard in science fiction stories, not in reality. Who were they? What laws had Earth broken? Why had humanity been singled out? In a small control room, Captain Eva Hernandez stood staring at the screen. She was part of Earth's Special Defense Unit, and her first thought was disbelief. This had to be a mistake. Earth wasn't even on the map for most galactic empires. Yet here they were, and there was no time to waste. "Get me the president," she barked, her voice sharp as steel. Her team scrambled to make the connection. But the signal was dead. All communication channels were jammed. She knew this was no simple misunderstanding. This was a direct attack. The ships in the sky began to move, their movements synchronized, coordinated in a way that no human technology could match. They didn't fire. They just hovered, waiting, as if they knew Earth's leaders would have no choice but to surrender. Eva's mind raced. She was no stranger to battle. In fact, she had fought in countless skirmishes on Earth's borders. But nothing had prepared her for this. A full-scale invasion by an enemy the likes of which humanity had never seen. The Galactic Council wasn't just some foreign power. It was a coalition of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, and they had just set their sights on Earth. She grabbed a communicator. "Prepare the fleet. We need every ship, every soldier. Now." But even as the words left her mouth, she knew it wouldn't be enough. The odds were impossible. Earth's military forces were powerful, yes, but this was a whole new level of warfare. The first alien assault was swift. Without warning, the ships began to release smaller drones, high-tech, nearly indestructible machines that targeted major cities across the globe. Lasers rained down from the sky, and buildings crumbled like paper. The drones were precise, surgical in their destruction. They targeted military bases, power plants, communication hubs, all the vital systems Earth depended on. The planet was under siege, and humanity had no idea why. In a dark room, far beneath the surface of Earth's capital, the president watched in horror. On the large screen, cities were burning, entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. But there was something even more terrifying than the devastation. The aliens had made no demands. They had simply come, and they had attacked. It was as if Earth wasn't even worth negotiating with. Eva's eyes narrowed. "Who are they?" she muttered. She wasn't just a soldier. She was a strategist, a thinker. She needed answers. Why Earth? Why now? As the chaos erupted above, a small group of scientists in a hidden lab uncovered something that could change everything. A signal, faint but unmistakable, had been detected. It wasn't an attack or a weapon. It was a message. From the Galactic Council. The message was cryptic, but the implication was clear. The time has come. Your species must be erased." The words echoed through the room, sending shivers down the spine of every person who read them. The message was a declaration. Earth was not just under attack. It was being hunted. But why? The truth was, Earth had never been a part of the larger galactic community. Humanity had been isolated, hidden away from the greater universe. But something had happened. Something had triggered the Council's wrath. It was as if Earth had unknowingly crossed a line that, once crossed, could never be undone. The message was clear now. Earth had been marked. The Council's wrath was not just about conquest. It was about punishment. "Get me to the front lines," Eva ordered, determination in her voice. She couldn't wait any longer for answers. There was no time for negotiations or diplomacy. She needed to act, to fight back. As Earth's cities burned and the world was thrust into chaos, one question remained. Why? The Galactic Council had struck, and the Earth was now in their sights. But what had humanity done to deserve this fate? What dark secret had been uncovered about Earth that led to this brutal attack? Captain Eva Hernandez didn't have the answers, but she was determined to find them and stop the destruction before it was too late. The first strike had been made. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The dust from the first wave of destruction had barely settled when the true horror of the situation began to sink in. The invasion had not been a simple military strike. It was methodical, calculated, and terrifyingly efficient. Cities lay in ruins, but the Galactic Council's ships hovered ominously above, their intent clear. The Earth had been left with only a sliver of hope, its last line of defense. Captain Eva Hernandez, now at the head of Earth's emergency military operations, paced rapidly through the command center. The room buzzed with activity, as soldiers and officers worked tirelessly to patch together what little remained of Earth's communications and military strength. Eva's mind raced, reviewing every bit of information she could gather. She had seen battles, sure, but nothing like this. Alien forces, more advanced than anything humanity had encountered, had dropped from the skies and ravaged Earth's defenses. The enemy was far superior in technology. Their ships could disappear and reappear in the blink of an eye, and their weapons decimated everything they touched. But something was nagging at Eva. Something didn't feel right. Why had they waited? Why hadn't the Council made their move years ago, when Earth was still a fledgling civilization, still divided, still vulnerable? Why now, when Earth had begun to unite and build stronger defenses? She slammed her fist against the table. There had to be a reason. There had to be something humanity had done to provoke this wrath. Suddenly, the room fell silent. A voice broke the stillness, coming from one of the lab technicians. "Captain, we've decoded part of the message from the Galactic Council." Eva shot to her feet, every muscle in her body tense. "What does it say?" The technician looked up, his eyes wide with urgency. "It's a warning. Not just for Earth, but for all humanity. The Galactic Council has been watching us for years. Our technology, it's evolving too fast." Eva's mind raced. She'd known that humanity was advancing at an incredible pace, but she hadn't realized how much it had caught the attention of more powerful civilizations. "What do you mean, too fast?" she asked, her voice low. "Humans are on the brink of discovering something," the technician replied, shaking his head in disbelief. "Something that could threaten the entire galaxy." Eva's heart skipped a beat. Could this be the answer she was looking for? Was it possible that humanity's rapid technological advancements had crossed a line that no one had even known existed? Before she could probe further, the air was pierced by an alarm. A new wave of ships had appeared in Earth's orbit, larger, more powerful than before. The Galactic Council wasn't stopping. They were escalating. "Prepare for battle," Eva ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. She didn't have time to fully understand what was happening. Earth's forces had no choice but to fight back, to defend their home. As soldiers scrambled, Eva made her way to the war room. The situation was dire. The Council's ships had begun to form a blockade around Earth, cutting off any possible escape routes. They were closing in. Soon, Earth would be trapped. The world's military commanders gathered in the war room, each one a seasoned leader, but even they could not mask the fear in their eyes. The scale of this invasion was beyond anything they had ever prepared for. "We need a strategy, now," one of them said, his voice cracking. "We can't outmatch them in firepower. We need something unexpected." Eva nodded. "We can't fight them head-on. We need to use their overconfidence against them. They think they know everything about us. But they don't." A thought crossed her mind. A daring plan, one that could either win them the war or end everything in an instant. "We'll take their technology and use it against them," she said, the words spilling from her lips before she could stop them. "There's a secret weapon, something hidden in Earth's past." The room went quiet as everyone processed what she was suggesting. "Are you suggesting we use the artifact?" someone asked cautiously. Eva nodded. The alien artifact, the one humanity had recently uncovered, was their only chance. But using it came with immense risks. No one knew the full extent of its power or what it could do. They only knew that it was capable of unimaginable destruction. But Eva had no other choice. This was Earth's last line of defense. The weapon was their best shot at surviving the invasion. "Prepare the team," she said, her tone resolute. "We're going to activate the artifact." As the soldiers scrambled to assemble their forces, the first signs of the battle ahead began to unfold. The Galactic Council's ships were preparing to descend on Earth's major cities once again, with even greater firepower than before. It was a countdown, a race against time. Eva took a deep breath. She was about to make a decision that could change the course of history. If the artifact worked, Earth might have a chance. If not, they were finished. With no time to waste, she made her way to the artifact's location. It was deep within a hidden underground facility, guarded by the best of Earth's forces. As she descended into the heart of the facility, her mind focused on the task ahead. There was no turning back now. As Earth's defenders braced themselves for the battle of a lifetime, the world held its breath. The first strike had been made, and humanity had nowhere to hide. The war for Earth's survival had truly begun. The air in the underground facility was thick with tension. Captain Eva Hernandez stood at the center of the room, surrounded by her most trusted officers and a team of scientists. The artifact, an ancient relic of unknown origin, rested in the middle of a large containment chamber. Its surface glowed faintly, as if it had a life of its own, waiting to be activated. But there was something unsettling about it, something that made Eva's pulse race every time she looked at it. She turned to her chief scientist, Dr. Leonard Hayes, who had been studying the artifact for weeks. His face was pale, his hands trembling as he worked to calibrate the machinery that would trigger its power. "Are you sure about this?" Eva asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. "We don't know what it will do. We don't know if it's even safe." Dr. Hayes didn't meet her eyes, his gaze fixed on the artifact. "We have no choice, Captain. If we don't activate it, we might lose Earth forever. The Council's forces are already overwhelming us. This could be our only chance." Eva nodded grimly. The decision had been made. The artifact would either save them or doom them all. There was no going back. The team moved into position, preparing the activation sequence. As the countdown began, Eva's thoughts raced. What had the Council seen in humanity's potential that had frightened them so much? What was it about Earth that had triggered this invasion? The answers were somewhere in the artifact, buried deep in its unknown power. She just had to pray they were ready to face whatever came next. 10 seconds, Dr. Hayes called out. Eva's breath caught in her throat. The war for Earth's survival had led them to this moment. The artifact was humanity's last hope. But was it a gift or a curse? She had no way of knowing. 5 seconds, Dr. Hayes continued. "Brace yourselves." The room fell silent. The only sound was the rhythmic hum of the machines as they powered up. Then, with a sudden jolt, the artifact's glow intensified. A wave of energy rippled out from it, washing over the room like a tidal wave. Eva stumbled backward, her body shaking from the force of the energy. The lights flickered, and the walls seemed to warp and bend, as if reality itself was being twisted. "Activate the shields," one of the officers shouted. But it was too late. A blinding flash of light erupted from the artifact, filling the room with an otherworldly glow. Eva shielded her eyes, but the light was so intense that it felt like it was burning through her very soul. For a moment, she thought she might lose consciousness, but the sensation passed as quickly as it had come. When the light finally faded, Eva opened her eyes, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The artifact was no longer glowing. Instead, it had transformed into something else, something alive. It was pulsing with an eerie energy, its surface now shifting and changing, like the heartbeat of some ancient forgotten beast. The air around it crackled with power. Eva's heart raced. What just happened? Dr. Hayes stepped forward, his face pale as he examined the artifact. I don't understand. The readings are off the charts. It's reacting, but not like anything we've seen before. The team was silent, each person unsure of what to do next. Was this what the Council had feared? Was this what humanity had unleashed? Before they could process the implications, an alarm blared through the facility. "The Galactic Council's ships are moving into position," an officer shouted. "They're preparing for a full-scale assault." Eva's blood ran cold. This was it. The moment they had been waiting for. The moment they would either win or lose everything. "Get the artifact to the surface," Eva ordered, her voice sharp. "We're going to use its power to strike back." The team sprang into action, carefully moving the artifact to the surface where Earth's remaining forces were gathering. As they ascended through the facility, Eva's mind raced. What would the artifact do when it reached the battlefield? Could it truly turn the tide of the war? Or was it just another weapon that humanity had no control over? As the artifact was placed in position, Earth's last line of defense gathered, ready for the final confrontation. The enemy was closing in fast, their ships descending from the sky, their weapons primed. Eva stood at the front of the line, her heart pounding in her chest. She had led humanity through countless battles. But this felt different. This was more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council had made a grave mistake by underestimating Earth. And now, it was time to show them the true power of humanity. The battle was about to begin. The battlefield was set. Earth's remaining forces stood at the ready, the very ground beneath their feet vibrating with the force of the incoming Galactic Council fleet. In the distance, the enemy ships loomed, their dark, hulking shapes casting ominous shadows over the planet. The sky was filled with the hum of their weapons, charging and ready to rain down destruction. The stakes had never been higher. Captain Eva Hernandez, standing at the front of the line, watched as the artifact, a mysterious, living relic, pulsed with strange energy beside her. Its surface shimmered, changing colors, its glow deepening with each passing second. She could feel the power radiating from it, but she still couldn't fully comprehend its true nature. Was it a weapon, a shield, or something far more complex? The officers around her were silent, their eyes fixed on the artifact, waiting for it to reveal its secrets. In this critical moment, they had no choice but to trust it. They had no choice but to hope that this ancient power would be enough to stop the might of the Galactic Council. "Captain," one of her officers said, breaking the silence, "the enemy fleet is entering firing range. They're going to strike any moment." Eva took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving the glowing artifact. "Prepare for the worst. Activate the defenses." The ground shook as the first volley of enemy fire erupted from the sky. Missiles streaked through the atmosphere, and the sky was lit with explosions. Earth's forces fought back with all their might, but they were outnumbered, outgunned. The Council's ships were massive and heavily armored, and their weapons were more advanced than anything Earth had ever encountered. But the artifact, it was different. As the enemy fire rained down, the artifact began to hum, its energy building, swirling in the air around it. Eva could feel the tension in the air, the way the very atmosphere seemed to bend and crack. Then, without warning, the artifact unleashed a blinding flash of light, brighter than the sun itself. The force of the blast sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield, sending enemy ships tumbling through the sky, their shields buckling under the intensity of the energy. The first wave of the Council's fleet was obliterated in an instant, but the artifact didn't stop there. The light continued to spread, washing over the enemy ships, tearing through their hulls like paper, disintegrating them before they even had a chance to retaliate. Eva stood, frozen, watching as the artifact continued to unleash its devastating power. The sight was beyond anything she had ever seen, more powerful than any weapon humanity had ever created. The air hummed with the raw energy, a low, almost musical vibration that shook her very bones. The Council had underestimated Earth. They had thought they could simply crush humanity underfoot, that Earth's forces were too small, too weak to be a real threat. But now, they were witnessing something far more terrifying. They were seeing the true potential of a species they had long ignored, a species that had been underestimated, written off as insignificant. Until now. Eva's mind raced as she processed what was happening. The artifact was more than just a weapon. It was a key to unlocking humanity's greatest potential. And it was only now, in the midst of this war, that they were beginning to understand its full power. The Council's fleet was crumbling under the intensity of the attack, their ships falling from the sky, unable to withstand the onslaught. But as the enemy ships began to retreat, a new figure appeared in the distance, an even larger vessel, a massive warship that dwarfed anything the Council had sent before. It was heading straight for Earth, and it was clearly the command ship, the leader of the fleet. Eva's heart sank. They had taken out the first wave, but this new ship, it was something else entirely. It was an abomination of metal and energy, far more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. This was their final gamble. If they couldn't stop this ship, the battle would be lost. "Captain," one of the officers said, his voice filled with urgency, "that ship is equipped with a weapon capable of destroying the entire planet. We won't survive another attack." Eva clenched her fists. The odds had never seemed worse, and yet, they had the artifact. They had the power to fight back. But what price would they have to pay to use it? The artifact was already responding, its glow pulsing with energy, as if it knew the final showdown was approaching. Eva knew they didn't have much time. The fate of humanity rested on her shoulders, and she couldn't afford to fail now. "We have one shot at this," Eva said, her voice firm. "Prepare the artifact for the final strike. We'll end this once and for all." The officers moved quickly, setting the artifact in position. The energy around it intensified, the air growing thick with power. The ship above them loomed ever closer, its massive cannons now locked and ready to fire. Eva took one final look at the battlefield. Her heart was racing, but there was no turning back now. It was time for humanity to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. As the enemy ship fired its first shot, Eva activated the artifact, unleashing its full force. A wave of energy shot from the artifact, colliding with the enemy ship in a blinding explosion. The ship shuddered, its shields collapsing under the intensity of the blast. The weapon that had been designed to destroy Earth was now turned against its creator. The massive ship faltered, its systems failing, as the artifact's power surged through it. The Council's ship erupted in a spectacular explosion, the shockwave reaching Earth's surface, shaking the very ground beneath them. It was over. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity, and now they would regret it. The battle for Earth was won. The battlefield was silent now. The once terrifying fleet of the Galactic Council had been shattered, leaving nothing but remnants of destroyed ships and the echoes of the catastrophic battle. Earth stood victorious, but at a cost. Captain Eva Hernandez stood at the edge of the battlefield, looking out over the wreckage of what had once been a mighty force. The glow of the artifact still lingered in the air, its energy fading, but the devastation it had caused was undeniable. The ground beneath her feet was scorched, the atmosphere thick with smoke and debris. Her mind was spinning. Earth had won, but at what price? The artifact had given them a power they had never imagined, but it was clear that this victory was just the beginning. The Council wouldn't sit idly by. They would come back, and next time, they would be prepared. She turned toward her crew, the survivors who stood behind her, their faces covered in ash and exhaustion. Some were injured, others lost in thought, processing the shock of what they had just witnessed. Eva knew that even though the battle was over, the war was far from finished. "Captain," one of her officers spoke, his voice low and uncertain. "What happens now? The Council will send reinforcements. We're not safe yet." Eva didn't respond immediately. She had been thinking about this for hours. Earth had never faced anything like the Council. The power of the artifact was incredible, but it was clear that they could not rely on it forever. The Council's forces were vast, and their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. "We prepare," Eva said at last, her voice resolute. "We rebuild, and we get ready for what's coming." But deep down, Eva knew that there was more to this war than just defeating the Council. There was something far darker at play, something they didn't fully understand. The artifact had been a powerful weapon, but its origins were still a mystery. Who had created it, and why had it been hidden away on Earth for so long? As the crew worked to assess the damage, Eva gathered her top officers for a private meeting. She needed answers, and she needed them fast. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and if they were going to survive, they needed to understand what they were up against. "Get me everything we know about the artifact," she ordered, her eyes sharp. "I want to know who made it, and why they chose Earth. And most importantly, I want to know how we can use it to our advantage." The officers nodded, but Eva could tell that they, too, were worried. The artifact was powerful, but it was also unpredictable. They didn't know how long it would last, or how much control they had over it, and the enemy would undoubtedly come for it, seeking to reclaim the power that had just been used against them. Back in the command center, the mood was somber as the survivors of the battle assessed their situation. Earth's forces had suffered heavy losses, and the enemy's forces had left deep scars on the planet's surface. But Earth had proven something that day. A message had been sent across the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Eva looked out over the horizon, where the sun was beginning to rise, casting a pale light over the wasteland of the battlefield. The battle was won, but there was no time to rest. The Galactic Council was not done with Earth, not by a long shot. But Earth had something they didn't expect: unity, resolve, and a fierce determination to protect their home. Humanity had fought back against an overwhelming enemy, and they had done it together. And Eva knew that this was just the beginning of a much larger fight. "This is only the start," she murmured to herself. "The Council will come again, but we will be ready, and we will fight for our home." In the distance, the sound of ships could be heard. The first wave of reinforcements had arrived. They were Earth's allies, but there was a new sense of urgency in their voices. The war had just begun, and Earth would need every single one of them. As the days passed and Earth's military forces regrouped, Eva's thoughts turned to the artifact once again. She had to understand it, unlock its secrets, and use it to their advantage. She had no choice, because the Council would return, and next time, Earth would be prepared. The galaxy had been watching, and now Earth had made its mark. Humanity was no longer the underdog. It was a force to be reckoned with, but the price of victory would be high. The Council would not forget the loss they had suffered, and the battles ahead would be even more brutal. But as Eva stood there, looking out over the battlefield, she knew one thing for certain: Earth would never back down. No matter what came next, Humanity would stand tall, ready to defend their home, ready to fight for the future. The ultimate battle had begun, and Earth was ready to fight. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but the shadow of the Galactic Council still loomed over Earth. The victory they had secured on the battlefield had come at a steep price, and with every passing day, the uneasy calm grew heavier. The Council, although wounded, had not forgotten the defeat. They were regrouping, building their forces, and plotting their next move. Eva stood at the command center, staring at the display screen as it flickered with images of alien fleets gathering just outside Earth's borders. The Galactic Council was sending a massive armada, larger, more advanced, and better prepared than ever before. It was no longer just about the artifact. The Council had a new mission: to obliterate Earth, once and for all. "We don't have much time," Eva muttered, pacing back and forth. Her officers watched her with a mixture of concern and resolve. The pressure was mounting, and they knew that their next move would determine the fate of humanity. "They're coming for us." "What can we do, Captain?" Lieutenant Harris asked. He was a young officer, but his experience in the last battle had shown he had the heart of a warrior. "We can't fight them off with the forces we have now." Eva paused. The truth was undeniable. Earth had fought hard and won a major battle, but they were still vastly outnumbered. The Council's ships were technologically superior. Even with the mysterious powers of the artifact, Earth's forces were not ready for the full wrath of the Council. She turned to her crew, her eyes steely with determination. "We prepare for the worst, but we won't give up. Not now. Not ever." "Agreed," Harris replied. "But there's something else, something I've been thinking about ever since the battle. The artifact. It's more than just a weapon. There's something we're missing, something hidden in its design. I think it's meant to do more than we've realized." Eva's mind raced. Could it be that the artifact had powers they had yet to unlock? Could it hold the key to turning the tide of the war? She didn't know the answers, but the urgency was clear. They had to find out. "We need to study it," Eva said. "Get me the best minds we have on it. We'll figure out what we're dealing with and how to use it to our advantage." As the team scrambled to gather intelligence and explore the artifact's secrets, Earth's military forces continued to prepare. They were building new weapons, fortifying their defenses, and preparing for a fight that seemed almost impossible to win. But Eva knew that humanity had something the Council would never understand: an unbreakable will to survive and a fierce determination to protect their home. Days later, Earth received an unexpected visitor, a mysterious alien ship, one that had not been seen before in the galaxy. It was sleek, almost organic in design, and its presence sent a shiver down Eva's spine. Who could it be? An ally, or something far more dangerous? The ship docked at Earth's military headquarters, and Eva watched as a figure disembarked. It was not an alien she recognized. Tall and imposing, the stranger wore a cloak that shimmered in the light, and their face was obscured by a mask that seemed to change shape with every passing second. "Who are you?" Eva demanded, stepping forward. Her hand instinctively went to the hilt of her weapon. The figure spoke in a language that Eva didn't understand, but their words seemed to resonate deep within her mind. A translator device quickly kicked in, allowing the message to be understood. "I am Korath," the figure said. "I come from a distant system. I have heard of your struggle, and I offer you my assistance." Eva raised an eyebrow. "You're not with the Council, then?" Korath's mask flickered with what seemed like a smile. "No, I have my reasons for opposing them. And I believe that you, Earth, have a power unlike any other. The Council's arrogance has clouded their judgment. They underestimate you." Eva was skeptical but intrigued. "Why would you help us?" Korath's voice lowered, becoming more serious. "Because the Council's true purpose is not just to conquer. They are seeking to control the galaxy's very core. The artifact you possess is key to stopping them, but you must understand its full potential. The war you fight is not just for your survival. It's for the survival of everything. The artifact can either save or destroy the galaxy. You must make sure it falls into the right hands. Eva's heart pounded in her chest. She had always known that the artifact was powerful, but this revelation took it to a new level. If the Council were after the artifact for more than just as weaponry, if they wanted to control the galaxy's core, then Earth was in greater danger than ever. "You're saying the artifact can destroy the galaxy?" Eva asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," Korath replied, "but only if it falls into the wrong hands. If used incorrectly, it could bring the galaxy to its knees. The Council cannot be allowed to control it." Eva nodded. "We have to keep it safe. We have to make sure they don't get their hands on it." Korath's eyes glowed under the mask, and for a moment, Eva felt as though she was looking into a deep, ancient wisdom. "You're not alone in this fight. There are others out there who will help you. But time is running out. The Council's invasion force is already on its way." Eva's mind raced. Allies were gathering. The artifact was more powerful than they had imagined. And the Council's invasion was imminent. The stakes had never been higher. As Korath's ship departed, Eva turned to her team, her resolve hardening. "Get ready. The Council is coming. But we won't be caught off guard. We'll fight back. And this time, we'll win." The war was far from over. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun, and Earth would be at the center of it all. The days leading up to the battle were filled with intense preparation. Eva and her team worked tirelessly, each knowing that the fate of the galaxy rested in their hands. The discovery of the artifact's full potential had given them a glimmer of hope, but the task ahead was monumental. The Galactic Council's armada was vast and powerful, and the forces on Earth were still small in comparison. But Earth had something the Council never expected: unity. People from all corners of the planet, from every nation and every culture, had set aside their differences. They fought as one. For their homes, for their families, and for their future. The Council had underestimated humanity's will to survive, and now they would pay the price. Eva stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the final fleet preparations unfold. The once quiet space around Earth was now alive with activity, as hundreds of ships gathered to defend their world. She felt the weight of the moment. This was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a fight for the very future of the galaxy. The mysterious alien Korath had returned, bringing with him strange allies and powerful weapons. They had trained Earth's forces, teaching them how to use the artifact's full potential. But even with these advantages, Eva knew that the battle ahead would be a fight like no other. "Are you ready, Captain?" Lieutenant Harris asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Eva nodded, her eyes never leaving the view of space. "We don't have a choice. We fight because we must. We fight because it's the only way forward." The ships of Earth's fleet had aligned in formation, a shining symbol of hope against the darkness of the Council's tyranny. The first wave of the Council's forces was already approaching, massive ships forming a blockade in the vast expanse of space. Their weapons were powerful, their numbers overwhelming. But Earth's people had something the Council could never replicate: human ingenuity and courage. As the first salvo of enemy fire streaked across the void, Eva ordered her fleet to engage. The battle began in earnest. The sky was filled with explosions, as Earth's ships fought with everything they had. The Council's forces were relentless, their superior technology on full display as they unleashed wave after wave of destruction. Yet despite the odds, Earth's fleet held strong. The human spirit, fueled by determination, hope, and the power of the artifact, shone through. Eva was in the heart of the action, coordinating the defense from the flagship. Her hands flew across the controls, directing ships to critical points and issuing commands to avoid the barrage of fire from the enemy. "Captain, they're breaking through the outer defenses," one of her officers called out. Eva's heart raced. This was the moment of truth. The artifact was their final hope, the key to turning the tide of the war. With a quick motion, she activated the artifact's power. channeling its energy into the fleet's weapons systems. The artifact hummed with an ancient energy, its glow filling the bridge. The very air seemed to crackle with power as the artifact's abilities were unleashed on the battlefield. Earth's ships fired back with a force the Council had never anticipated. The sheer magnitude of the weapon's energy tore through the enemy lines, sending shockwaves through space. Direct hit on the enemy flagship, Harris shouted. The enemy ship exploded in a blinding flash of light. But the victory came at a cost. The Council's forces retaliated with their full strength. A massive beam of concentrated energy hurtled toward Earth's flagship, cutting through space like a blade. Eva gritted her teeth, braced for impact. She shouted, but it was too late. The beam struck the flagship, sending the ship into a violent spin. Alarms blared as the hull was breached, and the crew scrambled to contain the damage. In the chaos, Eva remained calm, directing her officers with precision. This ship isn't done yet. We've come too far to stop now. With the last of their energy reserves, Earth's fleet pushed forward. They fought with everything they had, their attacks relentless, their tactics unpredictable. The Council's ships were beginning to falter. They were outmatched, outwitted, and overwhelmed by humanity's determination. The battle raged on, but slowly the tide began to turn in Earth's favor. The Council's forces, once so confident, were now on the defensive. Earth had proven that it was not to be underestimated. As the final Council ship fell, Earth's fleet let out a collective cheer. The battle was over. The war was won. Against all odds, humanity had triumphed. Eva stood at the helm of the flagship, gazing out into the vast emptiness of space. Her heart swelled with pride for her crew, for her people, and for the future they had just secured. The Council, once the ultimate power in the galaxy, had been defeated, and Earth, against all odds, had emerged victorious. "Is it over?" Harris asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Eva smiled, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "Yes, for now, it's over. But this is just the beginning. The galaxy has learned not to underestimate humanity, and I have a feeling the story of Earth's victory will echo across the stars for generations to come." As the Earth's fleet returned to its home, Eva knew that the victory was not just a military one. It was a victory of the human spirit. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood against the odds and won. And as for the Galactic Council, they would never make the mistake of underestimating Earth again. The war was over, but the legend of humanity's strength had only just begun.